everybody. So it's the end of a very long day, but very productive as well. Market 4 Social Media and Financial Services event in London. I'm with Alan. At last, we can shoot a video together. How are you doing, Alan?
It's been a while, Christophe, so yes, I'm glad we can finally get together after my being here for a couple of years, and we've talked so much online, in person. Glad to be here.
Thank you, and we follow each other, and you've done great stuff in terms of digital engagement on social media channels for CME Group. So could you please, in a nutshell, share your vision and tell us about your scope of responsibility you have?
Sure. We've been doing social media now at CME Group for almost 6 years, which seems like a long time, but let me tell you, it's gone by really quickly. My role at CME Group is I'm in corporate communications. We've expanded our social media and digital efforts to roughly a group of maybe 10 people who really help focus on delivering content, helping us with metrics, managing and some of the platforms that we have, and we're doing a number of things from the key ones, right? Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, to looking at some more really specific and niche platforms like StockTwits, which is focused on the trading community. We're getting more into looking at how we can manage Google Plus and leverage that from an enterprise standpoint. So when we look forward at social media, there were a couple things I talked about today that are really important for us. Number one, how do we tie LinkedIn to a CRM, Salesforce effort for us? That's really critical. We have a number of people at the company who are using LinkedIn. We've been using it for, again, almost 6 years ourselves as a branding platform, but we're really seeing more convergence on the sales side. Number two, definitely data. I think everybody's kind of focused on data. How are you wading through false data to get to the things and the information you really need that matters to your brand and marketing efforts? I would say a third effort is content management. We're really, again, focused on leveraging really interesting and good content across a number of platforms, and not just, again, in a snapshot, but how do we leverage that data or that content over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? I mean, what are the points that we can bring it and reintroduce it back into the streams and manage that from there?
That's a great point you made today, this morning, and I'm glad you're touching on it again now. Data, content strategy, you can easily send potentially 500 tweets within a period of 6 months or 12 months and still be very relevant, still connect the right people with the right content, and usually companies don't think about that. The recurrence and pointing, redirecting to the same report or same piece of analysis, but as and when it's convenient and relevant. So that's a very good point. Yeah, you do many things. You were mainly in charge of international, if I'm correct now. In the last 2 years, you've been in London. You went to Asia quite a lot last year, I believe.
Yes.
Can you talk us very quickly about your experience in China? When you mentioned that pretty much your only marketing activity in digital was through a local, very popular social network?
Sure. We have been going to China from a sales effort and perspective and education standpoint for a number of years, I would say decades, and learning about the Chinese markets, financial markets, and how they operate, and with the idea that eventually the markets will open up to outside investors. So one of the things that we introduced was looking at social and how can we leverage all of these channels and what we're doing there, knowing that Facebook is blocked, Twitter's blocked, a lot of the major efforts of social really don't perform well or perform at all inside China. So we had a task force internally looking at what can we use, and it really came down to one thing, and it was Weibo. Weibo integrates Youku videos from the Youku platform. We have a Weibo blog that we've integrated with our website now that's in Chinese. So all of our efforts in terms of educating what our targets and stakeholders and the Chinese market are now based on one platform, and that's the Weibo platform, and it's been extremely successful for us. We've modeled our content and all of the things we're doing there based on what we've done and what we've known has been successful the last 6 years. So you'll see a lot of information about CME, but you also see a lot of information about what's happening in the US markets, about what's happening in the European markets, all of the BRIC economies, because China's connected to that, those 4 economies. So it's really, again, conversations, engagement, getting people to understand what we do, who we are, and what we're focused on. And Weibo is really our primary and priority for our marketing within China.
I think that was a very compelling case study, a success story you shared with us earlier today. Content is one of your key priorities for 2013 and the foreseeable future. Every single of those key social media channels have specificities in terms of syntax, frequency, tone of voice, call to action. How do you empower your employees or your team to make sure you totally, fully optimize the visibility and the reach of every single of those bits of information you produce?
Yeah, great question.
Do you have guidelines? Do you have, how do you do that?
Great question. So
Thank you.
I think like most companies, when we first started, it was kind of, let's just put stuff out there and see what happens. We've gotten, over the years, kind of gotten to the point now where we can look at each platform and see, you know, this piece of content is good for this one one might be good across all of them, this one is more visual, it should go here. So we're definitely at that point now where we're really using the platforms and content and marrying the two together. The team that we have, you know, we're constant communication, instant messenger, email, we do regular calls, we try to have regular editorial updates in terms of what's coming out so we know where to produce it and how to push it out. Yeah. I think what's been most interesting for us is two things on the content side and social. Is one, we're at the point now within the company where, you know, we really don't do anything anymore without somebody thinking about social media. I mean, when I first started, I know I had a lot of strange looks about why are we doing this and what's happening. But we've seen things move, and there's been a clear shift in the mindset of people of, you know, social works, and let's make sure that it's included in all of the things we do. So that has definitely changed. And I think the other thing is, you know, this idea of, you know, getting more and more people to think about content as a strategy, and not just content for content's sake. So where does it go? Where does it belong? You know, we're really, as a team, helping people try to figure that out. And, you know, we're still experimenting with a lot of these things and learning along the way as well. But I think the fact that we have people very strategically thinking about content and social has been a real great change within the company in itself.
Okay. Did you find the resources, the capabilities within the organization? So you found people who naturally were quite close to those technologies or eager to learn, or did you have to recruit outside the organization to kick it off, actually, to kickstart it?
Everything that we do is all internal. We do have ideas that come in from consultants and firms that we use, but all of the main things that you see right now are all from internal resources. And I think, as you probably know yourself, you know, the people who are really passionate about it and want to get involved are the ones that, you know, really tend to provide a lot of great ideas. They're willing to experiment. We, as a financial organization, obviously have to keep within certain guidelines that we're regulated by. So I think having a good set of checks and balances internally in our team really helps us focus on what we need to do, what we need to get done. And it's not, whereas I started it 6 years ago and was experimenting with some things, it's now, I would say, a really good team involvement internally of what we need to do. Is this the right thing? What should we be trying? We have a lot of things that are just kind of going as, you know, people have their responsibilities. But I like the fact that it's, you know, a number of people really providing ideas and thoughts on what we're doing.
No, I really enjoyed the timeline you showed us in terms of social media and where you started and how you had to approach one of your colleagues actually to take the Facebook page and launch the blog. And it's fascinating. On Twitter, you're one of the most followed actually Twitter accounts in financial services. That needs to be said. With what, more than 800,000 or more than 700? So around 800,000 followers, which is outstanding. So congratulations for that.
Yeah, thanks. And all organic, not paid for.
Oh, I know.
We didn't pay for anyone else, so.
No, that's important. Yeah, that has to be said as well. Yeah. So very extremely important, actually. Again, we can't cover everything, but. When you said about it comes from within the organization, people are open-minded, they're really eager to do stuff, I think it's reflected, correct me if I'm wrong, in your, again, like social media policies, or we talked about that this morning again, and we said what would employees have to do to communicate on those channels, and you said it's pretty minimal in terms of Twitter, for instance. Just mention that they work for CME Group, right, and it's just their views expressed on Twitter, but that's right, fairly basic, which again could be a good testimony of your ability and willingness to empower and responsibilize your own employees. Am I correct when I say that?
Well, the idea is, you know, we have our core group of people. Twitter is a great example because it's so real time, it's so fast, and people are doing so many things on it. But we have a core group of people that are our spokespeople for the company, and they're on Twitter. And obviously, that's part of the policy that it says they work for CME Group. We don't require it in your Twitter for example, but obviously still being very cautious about what you post and what is out there. So Twitter is one example. But I think more importantly for us, it's always been about guidelines. We are constantly refreshing our disclosure guidelines, what employees can and can't do, can and can't say, where they can and can't do it at. We make sure that there's a required disclosure online exam so people can understand these things. Social media is part of that. And there's constant reminders within the organization. So it's going to be an ongoing initiative at the exchange. Obviously in financial services, we do have requirements that we have to meet as a company, and our employees do so. And I think what's helped us too is we've kept our social team extremely small. So we do know that who's doing what, as opposed to just letting everybody out there. I mean, part of the benefit I have is we're in a B2B company and not a B2C, so I understand my colleagues in financial services retail have a very different challenge than myself and what we're doing. So there are differences there.
Yeah. Thank you. We talked about key social media networks or channels. We talked about content, but it's important as well not to at least neglect vertical communities or targeted micro in terms of size compared to like Facebook communities in financial services like stock tweets. Could you please again just briefly tell you why you decided to partner with them?
Sure.
And I think you've got more than 70,000 conversations you're saying on the platform on monthly basis. Correct. If I'm correct. So why is it important according to you, and why do you invest so time and energy or resources on that?
Sure. I mean, I think the idea of a platform like StockTwits, which is very more focused and more vertical in nature. StockTwits takes it's a Twitter-like platform, and it's integrated with the things that we're doing, but it takes conversations about the markets. And it does this by using a dollar symbol for U.S. stock. It does a dollar symbol for our futures products, which could be oil, gold. It could be a currency pair in the future space. And it verticalizes these conversations. So what I can do and what the team can do is we can take a look at the StockTwits platform and say, here are all the people that are posting things about a particular product or our stock as a company, and we can follow that conversation. So it helps us very quickly narrow down an audience, as opposed to taking a look at the entire Twitter universe, even using keywords or hashtags that sometimes the conversations become so deep and move so fast it's hard to follow. But we can take a more targeted platform like StockTwits and really dive into the conversations and take a look at what people are saying. And as you had mentioned, we've now come to the point where the products that we list on StockTwits for conversations, we're now getting about 70,000 data points, messages about our very own products that we list. So for us, we can follow trends, and I think the idea where we're moving towards, and we're getting there much closer because of the data. If there's a topic or a product that people are talking about, and all of a sudden, we can see a jump in the conversation. Can we develop a piece of research? Can we join in that conversation and help people find what they're looking for? So it becomes much more narrow and much more defined for us, and becomes more relevant, because these are people that are talking exactly about
relevant
products, and they might be trading them, they might be reporting on them, but they're very interested in the financial markets, and that's important to us.
So see, you touched, again, we'll wrap up in 2 minutes, but you touched something critical, right? Using the feedback almost in real time to put some intelligence and produce some relevant content in a timely manner. Would you, or today, do you proactively then reach out to the same people who talked about a conversation to make them aware of the bit of analysis or research, or is it not at the moment, but that's something you might consider in the future?
It's definitely a goal to get to that point. Yeah, and yes, there are some people that we do reach out to via Twitter or StockTwits and to talk to them and provide information. But at this point, it's really more about, okay, here's obviously a relevant topic, and again, because of the tags, the dollar symbol tags, it's going to show up in the stream, no matter if we talk to somebody or I reach out to you personally, or I just put it into the stream and people can converse with us. So, because it's not just blasting something out to the masses. It becomes a more focused conversation that helps to provide that level of, I guess, kind of delivering content in real time.
No, and that's when we start unleash it, tapping the potential of social. So again, congratulations for that. Well, thanks a lot for your time. You talked about a fourth stealth project or things you couldn't talk about. Is there anything you can say, or nothing at all? Actually, we talked about it privately.
Yeah, we're looking at a number of things. I think the great thing about working at CME Group is we have a history of being very innovative, and that really streams down into our culture as an organization. So I'm fortunate to be at a company like that, where we have a team of people that are really interested in, how can we push the envelope and look at things that, not just doing things to do them, but doing things that make sense to the company and the brand and what we can do as an organization. So we're constantly looking at new endeavors. We have some interesting things that we talked about. I don't really want to talk about.
No, I won't mention anything. It's exciting though, so I can say that it's going to be.
And if it works out, great. If it's not, so what? We're on to the next thing, and we're going to look and see what else we can do.
But you would be responsible to that type of project, or you work with an innovation team, or it's you're like pretty much.
It's that social media group that does it. And the great thing is we're all coming to. We had a call today, and we're all coming to that meeting every month with ideas and new things and what we need to do, whether it's analyzing something, or it's a new idea for a project, or can we do something better? What's working, what's not working? It's a really good group. So.
Fantastic, it's probably one of your greatest assets. All those people, the motivation and the ideas and the commitment to innovate. Thanks a lot, Alan. I'm so glad actually we managed to cut up at last in a video, and wish you all the best for all those exciting projects. Please keep us posted,
I will.
Especially when you launch that very exciting piece of innovation. So thank you, and see you soon on Visible.